Coming up, we have part 2 of our annual Acre Awards. Super excited to get into this. Coming up, the Modern Acre is presented by Corteva R&D, the research and development engine of Corteva Agriscience. Corteva is a global pure-play agriculture company that combines industry-leading innovation and high-touch customer engagement to deliver solutions for the world's most pressing agriculture challenges. Huge shout out to Corteva. This is the final episode of the year, Tim. Final episode of the quarter. So we really appreciate our sponsor this quarter, Corteva R&D. Shout out to the team there. Be sure to check them out if you don't already know about Corteva and Corteva R&D.
All right, Ted, we had a good part 1. We're ready to get into part 2. Let's jump right in. So what is going to be your biggest change for 2026? You've got a lot to work on, so I'm curious your pick.
I have a lot to work on. My pick last year was to simplify my life.
Kind of went the opposite direction on that one.
I decided to have another child. We decided to start a few new businesses. So yeah, that didn't go great. I think overall a really, really good year in 2025. I think the biggest change for me, Tim, is I recognize that this is a crazy season of life. And I'm a firm believer that there's seasons of life, right? Like some seasons of life, you're grinding and you need to grind and it's the time to grind, and other seasons where there is some reprieve. And but we're in a series, I think, in a season, both of us, we have young kids, we're grinding on our businesses, and it's just that time. I think something that I really need to change is just my relationship with my phone. I think that when you're grinding so much, it's like you feel like you need to be on top of work. And so you're like I feel like I'm always on my phone checking email. And when I zoom out and be like, wait, I don't need to check email every 5 minutes from like in the afternoon and evening, right? Like I think I've talked about this with my core group with Hampton, which I'm a member of, trying to reshape my relationship with my phone and being off it when the kids are home from school and in the evening when I'm spending time with them. But I'm just like, I just have this addiction, and it's fueled by this season of life that we're in. But of course, you get on your phone and then it's like you're checking email and then you're on, social media or YouTube or whatever. So just trying to create a better discipline and guardrails around that is probably, I think, what needs to be the biggest change for me.
Yeah, good picks, Ty. Definitely feels very similar for me in that stage of life where, young kids, just busy on the home front, busy on the work front with everything that we have going on. And trying to find those moments to be present. I think I talked about that last year of just like, finding time to put the phone down. Like for me this year, like doing Legos with oldest daughter Mason has been like something where I'm just like, no phone. We spend an hour and just me and her, just like, can we find this piece? Can we find this piece? She's a little young to actually like build them. So it's like good where I get to build and she gets to help me hunt for the pieces and play with the ones before they're built. So that's been like a good way just to like unplug and get some time one-on-one with her and not have the phone in front of me.
Over the Christmas holiday break, we've been doing puzzles, and we started doing this a few years ago, doing puzzles during the Christmas break and doing like Christmas themed puzzles. And that's just been so nice to just like sit down, put the phone in the drawer, and just pound through a 500-piece puzzle. And that's been really fun with the girls and spending time with them. And it's like festive, puzzles year round. It's pretty tough, but doing the Christmas puzzles, it's kind of a fun tradition. So that's been fun.
It's a good one. Yeah. The other thing I'd add is like being a little bit more proactive about my health this year. Did function earlier this year. I think you did it as well after I did it, but it opened my eyes to a few things of like heart health or heart issues running our family. And so like seeing some of those of like, I actually need to like start making some changes before this like becomes an issue. Like obviously like we live pretty stressful lives right now with everything going on. And like sometimes health can be overlooked. Like we're doing the daily workouts, but are you actually like moving the biomarkers that you need to make sure you're healthy on all levels? So like that was kind of an eye opener at the beginning of the year. So like through that, like made some changes, got into jiu-jitsu, which talked about a little bit. And that's been a game changer for me, just getting more cardio worked out. I think I've dropped close to 20 pounds from the start of the year. So just like taking the weight off just eases the stress on the heart. So that's been another positive change for the year that I'll continue with next year for sure.
So you're telling me you lost 20 pounds this year and you were the ag person of the year?
Am I having like a better year than Devin? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, so good. All right, Tim, we're gonna debrief quickly here the podcast, AgList, and Polaris, the kind of big buckets of things we're working on. We did an Awesomeness Farms recap on the last pod, so be sure to check that out. But let's hit these other areas, Tim. So for the podcast, looking back at 2025, Tim, I mean, I think last year we talked about it was a steady year. I think the biggest thing with the podcast this year was the launch of AgList. So we'll get into AgList in a little bit, but we had this thesis, Tim, that how do we grow the podcast? Let's keep doing cool stuff. And I think 2025 was the year we actually started those things started materializing. After 8 years of doing the podcast, one was launching AgList, which we'll get into. And then the other was our first full year at Polaris. We're going to get into that more, but just working on cool things and being entrepreneurial and hustling and building stuff in ag is what we think will drive more awareness and views and listens to the podcast, right? And so I think that was a huge success from launching AgList and building Polaris that we can talk about more on the podcast and bring listeners along with us, right? We're not just like these guys on a mic that are armchair experts. We're actually operators on the farm with building an online SaaS business and building this energy business in the ag sector. Like, we're doing a lot on the ground. We're operators, Tim. We're operators.
Such operators. No, I completely agree with everything you say. And it's been kind of cool to see like everything kind of culminate this year. Like when we started the podcast 8 years ago, like neither of us were actively involved in agriculture. We had come from a farming family. We were starting to get more interested in what was happening on the farm. And this year now being kind of me full-time on the farm, you full-time with Polaris, having the perspectives of a firsthand farmer and a firsthand ag tech CEO, I think is really interesting content that we can weave into the podcast and do more standalone episodes, because that's interesting in and of itself of like what a farmer actually thinks, what an ag tech CEO actually thinks. So it's been cool to like continue to build on having great guests, but also just doing standalone episodes and having interesting stuff to talk about on its own.
Totally. I think from like a tactics perspective, I think we didn't talk about this on the Acre Awards last year, but I think me and you both made a really concerted effort to focus on LinkedIn this year. And I think that's gone really, really well. Is how do we, podcasts are not inherently viral, right? It's like you have to be shared a podcast or see it on social media or something, and then you have to go listen to it and subscribe. They're not like a viral Instagram reel, for example. But on LinkedIn, there is more virality, right? So Tim and I, we've both, leaned into putting out content on LinkedIn, getting more followers that way, and hoping that really feeds into ultimately podcast listeners. So I think that's been a really good strategy or strategy that we've deployed, and I think that's something we're both gonna double down on in 2026. And maybe we go a la Jack Rains and we just start like being even more aggressive and poking fun and being sarcastic and witty. Tim, I will be witty. I can be witty. Be more witty, Ty.
Just forced wittiness is the best recipe for LinkedIn.
Exactly. And we launched our Farmer Mode hats, Tim. We've always got merch in the works, and launching our Farmer Mode hats was, I think, super fun. Seeing those hats out in the world is a ton of fun, and I just love the ethos of Farmer Mode and what that means. So I think there will likely be some more continued, Farmer Mode merch as the merch line, the official merch line of the Modern Acre. Kind of like how that just came out.
Just rolls right off the tongue. Tim, I think in 2026, we're kind of talking this out right now, but I think there's an opportunity to more professionalize what we do. I think we don't have a ton of time. I think in 2025, we explored working with third-party editors on the podcast and had mixed experiences with that. And I think in 2026, investing in more professionalization of the podcast, I think could make a lot of sense, and helping with distribution and reach, but something that we maybe outsource, right? Because we are just severely limited on time. So I think that would be a big goal of ours, is how do we get some of the production, editing, distribution off our plate and more professionally managed. Totally. And I think leading more into video as well. You mentioned like YouTube is a way that you consume a lot of content, and a lot of podcasts have video options as well. So if we can kind of get in that space as well, just gives us another outlet to get content out there.
All right, let's jump into AgList. So as last year, it's crazy listening to the podcast, Tim, from last year, we had not announced AgList. We announced it at, I think, January 28th of last year, and launched the Yelp for ag biologicals. And that's gone really, really well, Tim. We had this, we wanted to do something fun in ag. We wanted to start kind of an online SaaS business platform. We had the idea for AgList. We locked up that domain and we launched it to the world. And I think we could not have done, and we have an episode all about how and why we launched AgList, but we could not have done it without having the podcast. And so having the podcast as our platform to build other businesses and leverage the podcast to build and scale other businesses, it really materialized in 2025. And we have the biggest biological companies in the world on AgList. And I think that's really cool to see. And we have small companies on AgList and startups, and it's cool to see the spectrum and the variety of companies that are on AgList. And I think that's what's also really cool is you can be a small company that has an awesome biological product that farmers love, and you can be the top product on AgList, right? As farmers endorse you, you rise those rankings and get more visibility on the platform. So I'm so proud of what we built with AgList, Tim, and I think we're just getting started. We have a lot in store with that we can get into a little bit, Tim. But yeah, what are your thoughts on recapping the AgList?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's only 11 months in, and it seems like how many features we've added and companies we've added. Like a lot has happened over the course of the year. Like some days I think we'll be down on it, we're not doing enough. We haven't grown enough, but it is pretty cool to see what we built and see the adoption from, to your point, from big corporates to a lot of well-known companies that are venture capitalized to small bootstrap businesses in the biological space, where it fits a lot of different use cases for biological companies that are out there, and really delivering value to growers that are using these products. And something that didn't exist in the industry, I think, was desperate for, to have a transparent place where growers can find these products. And there's a lot of momentum with biologicals that we've talked about extensively, and so really continuing to kind of lean in that and continue to expand the platform. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to build, net new verticals on top of AgList. Like we've talked about that, of kind of once we hit critical mass with biologicals, there's, the opportunity to add new verticals onto the platform as well.
Yeah, I'm super bullish on AgList, and it's been an awesome first year. It's by far been the most successful thing we've ever done within the podcast. And so it's been really, really cool to see that just take form and be successful. And I think in 2026, Tim, we're going to keep scaling it. We're going to keep scaling biologicals. I think we definitely are going to add a new vertical in 2026. So outside of biologicals, that will be really exciting, because that, I think, will signal AgList is not just a place for biologicals. AgList is a place for anything a farmer uses, product, services that a farmer uses. They can go to AgList to find out what is best for them. So that's really exciting. And I think, again, on our strategy, I think 2026 is the year that we bring in some help. We obviously have we have full-time jobs outside of AgList, and so bringing in some dedicated support to help continue to drive and take this foundation we've built and run with it. So if there's people that have been following what we're doing with AgList and are interested in being involved, please reach out, because we're thinking about growing the team, what that looks like. And we're down to hear from people that are interested in being part of what we're building with AgList. All right, Tim. Now my day job, Polaris. So, this has been the craziest year. I started at Polaris, I think it was September 30th, 2024. So we're, 15 months into this game, and 2025 was, I feel like every month was different, and there was new challenges, new opportunities, new tailwinds, and ultimately 2025, Tim, Polaris had a record year, which I think is really, really cool, really humbling. And just seeing the team respond to new leadership and building a new program and kind of a different business model has been really cool. And I think, Tim, when we joined Polaris, we saw that there was, significant opportunity. It was this niche business that was kind of hard to explain, a very niche business model and go to market. And we saw the opportunity there. But I think being now in the seat and seeing what we offer to utilities, to the ag industry, like I could not be more bullish and excited about the opportunity in front of us. And like part of me feels like lucky, like we kind of lucked into this. Like I do want to give us some credit. We saw, I think, the opportunity in the niche business and the unique business model, but I think there's been so many now macro tailwinds that we did not necessarily anticipate. What we talked about earlier about Zach and what they're building at Base Power, like Polaris is uniquely positioned to execute on in the ag space, like this idea of energy flexibility and being able to offer flexible resources, energy resources to utilities is something that they value an incredible amount that we can enable through our platform and our ecosystem. So there's going to be some exciting announcements coming in the coming weeks that we're going to be sharing about Polaris. We haven't talked a ton publicly about Polaris over the past year, Tim, and we're going to be sharing some pretty exciting announcements for what's to come with Polaris in 2026.
Yeah, it's been exciting this past year, kind of seeing you settle into this role as CEO, Ty, and really lead the team and getting the rapport of the entire organization on kind of how we're thinking about the business, how we're thinking about strategy, and kind of leading by example. Kind of what we talked about with Devin of just like thinking creatively. How do we use AI to better ourselves? Just different stuff like that has been awesome to see. Obviously, I'm supporting there as well on a part-time basis. And yeah, to your point, I think there's a lot of excitement on this ag energy nexus where there's a lot of tailwinds with stress on the grid, with the rise of AI and data centers and EV charging, all of that. And like what role does agriculture play in that space is really exciting. And that's where Polaris squarely sits.
All right, that segues nicely to our next category, our 2025 obsession. What was our obsession in 2025? We've already hit on it, but mine was the energy industry. You hit on it. It's been so intellectually stimulating to learn a new industry. We joined Polaris and we knew ag really well. We understood the business fundamentals, but we were not experts in the energy markets. And we had great team members at Polaris that did, but we have been soaking up learning this industry and the dynamics, and that's just been so interesting to me, because I think it's really interesting when you bring two industries together and you have a unique business that kind of meets those two. We had Mark Brooks on the podcast a few months back talking about from an investment perspective, investing at the seams, right? And this idea of at the seams of these different industries where they intersect, businesses that can or drive value in that intersection are really interesting. And that's what we do at Polaris. So yeah, just been obsessed with energy flexibility. And, there's been all this new demand, unprecedented demand on the grid. How is the grid going to respond? Like how is the grid going to support this? It's this antiquated infrastructure that needs to increase its capacity, and you can either do that through new power generation, so new power plants, renewables, coal, if that's what you're into, or you can have flexible resources, right? Because the grid is built to address that peak demand, but that peak demand only comes, a few times a year or a few times a month. And so if you can have flexible resources on the grid, that allows utilities not have to build new power plants, right? So there's a advantage of not having to build new power plants. It's faster to deploy than building a new power plant, and it's often cheaper. And that's really exciting. So we offer that for utilities and specifically in the ag market. So my obsession far and away has been in energy. Tim, what about you?
Great pick, Ty. Mine is going to be a little bit cheesy, Ty, because I've brought it up before, and it's cringe just saying it, but it's really been getting into jiu-jitsu this year. I think it's been awesome just to dive into a new sport and learn the culture and just new vocabulary of different positions and your it's as much mental as it is physical, and something I never thought I'd do. Like, we didn't grow up doing martial arts or combat sports, and intimidating to do something new like this when you're 38 years old and like have a young family of just like drive up to a gym where you know no one, don't know the sport at all, and just kind of like dive in head first. And I think it was exactly what I needed. It's been awesome just from both aspects, the mental and the physical, of just picking up a new sport, a new hobby has been really cool, really good for me. And just like the release that you get of like such a hard workout, of like when I drive home after class, like you're just so gassed. It just like makes you a better father, better husband. You're just like so relaxed, like coming off a class. It's been a highlight.
I'm happy for you. I'll even go so far as to say that it's not cringe. I think that's cool. I think it's objectively cool that was your 2025 obsession. That's right on.
No, it's been awesome, Ty. I think you should definitely check it out when Roman gets a little bit older. It was like I had to wait a little bit until we got out of the total newborn phase, but it's just like totally different vibe from like everything we've done like athletically before. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then if I do it, then one day we will have a actual match fight.
Yeah, that's the issue, because then we would just injure each other.
Yeah, all roads lead to a jiu-jitsu match on YouTube live. You hear about how
the modern Acre ended? Tim and Ty got into a literal fight.
Seriously. I'll just keep golfing. Is probably what I'll do. But okay. All right, we got to wrap this up. 2 more picks. 2026 predictions. Tim, I'm gonna just go ahead and call my shot.
What do you got, Ty? Call it.
All right. So my prediction is that Polaris blows up this year in a good way. My prediction, we've got some exciting announcements in the works in early 2026, but fundamentally Polaris has been a California focused business, and we are going to expand, and we are going to expand all across the US. And what we do works in every market where there's agriculture in the US and really in the world. And 2026 is the year we expand. And, maybe we're not quite like having a base power year with raising $1 billion and not anyone knowing them to everyone knowing them. But I would like, some small sliver of that energy, pun intended, for Polaris. So I think 2026 is the year we make some waves with Polaris.
I love it. The momentum is building. Exciting for the announcement coming up in January. Everything that you've been working on with the team. Excited to get that out in the world.
Tim, what's your 2026 prediction?
My 2026 prediction, I think on a farm level, farm economy, as we've talked about, has been pretty challenged. I think it's expected to be another challenging year coming up in 2026, and so like this is going to be the year that I think is like make or break for a lot of like ag tech startups that have been out there that have been kind of like haven't quite found the off ramp or the exit. It's challenging me to go through multiple years of a down cycle on what farmers decide to spend money on. So I think it's going to be kind of a year of reckoning. So I think we'll see some M&A where you see a lot of companies kind of scoop up startups that were had grander ambitions, but due to the circumstances are having to find a kind of an alternate path. So that's my kind of prediction for this year, is kind of increased M&A and really the strongest startups surviving through the past few years of down cycle.
I totally agree. And I would just add to that, seeing some on the investing side, seeing what firms that are ag tech investors, specialty investors, seeing if they're able to raise, fund 2, 3, 4, right? Like, are they able to raise subsequent funds? I think we're going to see some reckoning on that side as well. Like, where are there as many ag tech specific firms, investing firms by the end of 2026, right? I think it's also, we're going to see some changes on that front too. All right, Tim, you introduced a new category last year, so I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, so we talked about the concept of Misogi, which is a Japanese term. Heard about this from Jesse Itzler, like talks about it like every year, kind of marking the year with a big conquest or big endeavor that like you just remember the year. Like in last year, in 2025, like we launched AgList, we created a business. We'll always remember 2025 of like these kind of big milestone events. It's like the year that I got into jiu-jitsu. Sorry to keep bringing that up, but it's like things that mark the year. And so want to kind of talk about what our Misogi is for the upcoming year in 2026.
Yeah, so our big one together was to launch AgList, which was, I think, really exciting. Personally, when I think about Misogi and kind of marking the year, something that my wife and I have really prioritized for us and our family is travel. And every year, really since my first daughter was born, we've done a big trip internationally, usually to Europe, and that every year marks the year of this big trip. And I think it's been really cool to see how it shapes our children of just being flexible, and like dealing with travel is not easy. You have to deal with logistics and things that don't go your way, and it's also very fun, right? So it's all these different components. So travel, doing a big trip every year, I think is really marks the year which is a lot of the spirit of Misogi. I'm kind of like doing a 2-in-1 this year, Tim. So we're going to Switzerland in 2026 and to the Alps, and we are running a race, a race in the Alps. So we're doing a 10-mile race in the Alps, which is pretty freaking cool. My wife and I have done a half marathon before. This is a 10-mile run, but it's, some serious elevation component of it. And 10 miles by no means that impressive, but for me, that's a long run. And so doing a big run while in Europe is kind of like this 2-in-1 Misogi that I'm pretty excited about. So that's my big personal one for 2026.
Nice. That's a good one. Yeah. Travel is a good one, Ty. Like the past few years, we've done like a family summer trip to Lake Tahoe. Like just, it's my favorite place in the world. Of just like love being in Tahoe, like any time of the year, but like started a tradition of like bringing the girls up there, doing a week in Tahoe kind of at the start of summer. Last year, or in 2025, unfortunately, like didn't book it. We like waited too long and like basically like didn't have a summer family vacation. And it was like my thing that bummed me out the most about last year, of just like didn't get that experience. We like went later in the year and did like a long weekend in the fall, like was not the same. And so this year it's like we got to bring that back, of like having this kind of special memory. It's not the big mega, like not the big European vacation, but I think just like having like the same place that you go to every year is kind of cool. Like is bringing the kids there, of just like bringing the bikes, and you're always in the same spot and you kind of remember those same locations. Like we grew up going to Tahoe, and like we go back now and it's like, oh, we went to this restaurant when we were little kids. It's just kind of crazy. So back to the summer Tahoe trips is not a crazy Misogi, but that's something I want to get back on the family calendar this year.
Tim, I think your Misogi should be to do a jiu-jitsu competition.
I know they definitely like have them. They like in the class. There's like people are. I'm going to this weekend one. There's like ones in Sacramento. I don't think I'm there yet. It's like some of the people have like been doing it like 10 years, but like maybe that's something to work towards. Like I got to figure out how the age brackets work, because maybe like once I hit 40, then might be a little bit better competition versus like where it is now.
Yeah, like you would be terrible in the 30s, but like decent in the 40s.
Yeah.
I love that for you. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed our annual Acre Awards and just hearing Tim and I unpack all these categories. Tim, this is fun. This is always great to unpack the year. And I think 2026, man, we got a lot in store. I don't think it's going to be a simple year, but I think it's going to be a big year in general across everything we're working on. And the podcast, first and foremost, right, as continuing to build this.
Totally. Yeah, excited for 2026. Thanks for listening this year, guys. Looking forward to talking with you in the new year.